Hello and welcome to my masterclass on Daddy Daycare. The topic of this episode is going to be physical punishment. Ooh, tricky subject. First off, this is my kid, Lennox. He's 2.5. He's a treasure. I love him dearly. He's a great kid. He's got his father's spirit. Um, but under these present circumstances, taking care of a 2.5-year-old at home can be a challenge. And parenting in general is a challenge. And I wanted to talk a little bit about physical punishment because it might be relevant right now. We're all sort of dealing with a challenging circumstance and being in close quarters. And I kind of wanted to toss out some of my tactics on managing Lennox. And I want to start with sort of a comedic bit, which I have about physical punishment, which is, all right, so don't subscribe to physical punishment. Physical punishment is not the answer. We shouldn't do physical punishment. Let's just put physical punishment on the shelf. We're not going to go anywhere near physical punishment. It's just going to be mental. And so with that setup, I wanted to sort of start with sort of a fun little paradox of like, okay, if you remove the physical elements of punishment off the table, you've kind of backed yourself in a corner and you're essentially throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And for me, I have found ways of using physicality in punishment, or at least sort of the ecosystem of punishment, as a way of getting Lennox to essentially do what I want him to do, or to behave in a way that I'd like him to behave. I'll give you two examples of this. So the first one is something that I really love to do as a parent, and I think any parent who has a toddler also can appreciate this joy, is I love to pick this guy's nose. This guy can get some really funky boogers, and it is such a pleasure for me to get in there and scoop them out, because not only do I have the sort of the satisfaction of eliminating this booger, but I also dampen the embarrassment of my kid walking around with a bat in the cave. But despite my enthusiasm for picking his nose, Lennox does not like it. He would rather not me pin him down and stick my finger in his nose. And I think, if I were in his shoes, I would probably feel the same way. But picking his nose is kind of a essential grooming function. You sort of have to do it. I'm not hurting or scarring him. I'm not really terrifying him. I'm just sort of doing something that is necessary that he just doesn't like. It kind of annoys him. But knowing that, I can use that physical annoyance to my advantage. So if there's something that I want him to do, or something that I'm asking him to do, or something that I don't want him to do, for example, I can say something like, "Do you want me to pick your nose?" And boom, you get a total change of behavior, because he knows, I don't want to get my nose picked. And whatever it is that I'm doing is not worth getting my nose picked. Another tactic that I like to use is tickling. And for those that went through childhood, tickling is fun, you laugh and such. But if you're being tickled, especially endlessly, it's really uncomfortable. And it can be just really uncomfortable. And so we'll play around and we'll tickle and such. But if you really kind of go after him, and I'm much bigger than him and I can tickle him as long as I want to, he really is not in a good place. And it's just more out of discomfort than anything else. I'm not like physically harming him, but I'm just making him uncomfortable. And that tactic works just the way picking his nose does, which is, you're doing something I don't like, or I want you to do something, I can just say to him, "I'm gonna tickle you," and boom, I get a total change of behavior. And the reason why I think that that's important is that means that with those sort of tools, I can control my son without raising my voice or touching him. And what I'm doing is engaging with his more advanced cognitive thinking, his rational mind, his sort of more cerebral cortex type of functionality, because by setting up a cause and effect, if this happens, then this happens, and sort of like cementing that in his mind, I can evoke that rational thinking and get him and steer him in directions that I would like, rather than physically grabbing him or physically manipulating him or badgering him into compliance, where I'm just sort of sidestepping all of that rational thinking and just going right for his sort of more primal brain and intimidating him and him doing what I want. And that will likely work for a while, but you'll either sort of scare the kid into compliance, or he'll just become immune to you. So anyway, I know that folks are in a tough spot now, myself included, and I wanted a sort of a fun way to kind of reach out and just offer some suggestions on how to kind of go about it. And you may see more of these, and I hope that you enjoy this. Take care.